So this is kind of a weird one to talk about. Like, I'm automatically positively inclined because I've been enjoying season 3 for the most part, and they're trying to showcase that the separatists are not cartoonishly evil, and that the Republic is obviously bad too. You know, good people, bad people on both sides. But that being said, I'm looking at this and it's like, okay, so Padme's big thing is let's negotiate, which, as I've pointed out before, is ludicrous. Even if Palpatine wasn't in charge of everything, which he obviously is, but even if we removed the "I'm controlling both sides of the war" thing, I can't picture any reason why the Separatists, in general, the actual leader of the Separatists, not this stupid Senate who has no power, would actually be in favor of this. I can't even envision that, actually. Now, what's funny is taking a step back, what I'm seeing is two senates of two governmental bodies that are both basically powerless because they're both designed to feel and think that they're in charge of their respective governments and aren't in both cases. No real life jokes, please. Let's just leave that at the door. But obviously, this is a designed situation, which makes sense. But what I find funniest is they paint the Republic as these horrible evil people and the Jedi as these horrible evil people. And I just wanted to laugh because that just sounds like so much propaganda to me. Again, remember that most of what we've seen of the actual Separatist leadership is dead puppies. Um, I mean, God's sakes, there's. Granted, I'm not trying to say the Republic good. Remember, right after the first Senate meeting, we followed one of the banking clan members and one of the Trade Federation people and random guy whose name I don't remember. And they're like, oh man, we could have made billions on extending the war. I mean, war profiteering is a very serious and very terrible thing. Let's not mistake that. I do find it amusing the extent they had to go to shut this particular piece down, because they had to go to some lengths here. Although, what the hell is wrong with Coruscant security that they can't tell the difference between a cleaner droid and a fully armored and armed battle mech? Well, I shouldn't say mech, because that implies a pilot, but you get the point. Battle droid. Anyways, let's ignore all that. I do find it funny that Anakin is basically an idiot in this episode. See, the Separatists are the bad guys, and we have to fight them in order to restore order. And I'm just like, Anakin, even I don't believe you're that stupid. I don't. Anakin isn't that stupid. He's a little simplistic, but simple is not stupid. Just look at O'Brien. Anyways, quick essential thought here quick additional thought on the end here. Why couldn't we have more of this? Right? Like, seeing more of the underbelly of both sides might have been interesting. Having different viewpoints or having different perspectives on what the hell's going on. Like, we never find out what the Separatist Senate thinks of all of these events, right? There's a Separatist attack on Coruscant, and so the Republic Senate says no peace. So what does the Separatist Senate think about that? Oh, while I'm on the topic, once again, we see how they managed to make... Because remember, this episode's really about two things. In character. Out of character, it's about showing both sides. But in character, it's about two things. Deregulating the banks, which is such an insanely terrible idea, I can't even put it into words, but whatever. Deregulating the banks. And the second... by the way, if you ever want to read up on some nightmare stories, read up on deregulating banks in real life. Don't actually do that. And the other thing is, of course, keeping Palpatine in power. It's his usual moves. But if we ignore the Palpatine in power thing, which is kind of the overarching arc of the entire series, this episode's all about a bill being pushed through a Congress in order to deregulate a particular sect of banks, in order to allow for different fiscal loans and responsibilities, and allowing for an increased amount of debt in wartime. And that's right there. That's what really sold me on this show. There were actually two things. The character development of Ahsoka and Anakin, and the politics, the infrastructure, the industry. Too many times, in my opinion, Star Wars, a lot of fiction really, but Star Wars ignores reality, ignores infrastructure, ignores world building, and it just says, well, this happens. Why? Well, because this happens. They're the bad guys, so they have these big ships, and they attack you. Well, where do they get those big ships, and how do they get those big ships, and what funds those big ships? I always prefer it. Star Wars has done this at certain points in the EU. I don't know if they ever have in the AU. At certain points, they've sat down and said, okay, this is where this comes from. This is how this happens. This is why this happens. And giving more infrastructure and building and establishment, making the world more believable, and making me enjoy the setting more. So I like stuff like this. But that's all I got. I'll see you next time.